I have a question. I would like to know you guys' thoughts on this. We've I don't think I've done a segment on this yet. I've talked about it in segments, but I've never done a segment that was completely dedicated to this theory that I had. And I want to know where you guys at on it. So, you leave your comments. I read all of those. Go back and forth with each other. And let me know what you think. I don't know if there needs to be some like FOIA request of some sort. How much money I think Marvel in particular, but we'll throw DC in there as well. How much money that is taxpayer that goes to line the pockets up of Marvel? I think Marvel's a lot more active in that scene, but DC too. And what I mean by that is, if you go look at the numbers, the places where you can try to verify some bit of data, where you look at the MBD book scans, Comic-Con and all that, you see that in the terms of how much money that Marvel spends, like, for example, on their books, between getting it made, printed, shipped out, they're not seeing that. There's no way that, for one, a lot of people are buying those top books, number one. It's not just something that the private comic book shop owners are grabbing. No. Ain't no fucking way. So we know that there's money in other numbers in that regards as well. But I want to know how much, let's say in a library sense, how much of that taxpayer money is going to line up the pockets, either directly or indirectly in some case. So, like, for example, Scholastic does a lot of Marvel shit. You know what I mean? We know Scholastic and public school system basically go hand in hand. Some of y'all remember that for when you come up. And Scholastic does a lot of stuff. They got this stuff they're coming out with Miles right now that they're promoting. They do a lot of stuff and have done a lot of stuff with Marvel in itself. And we know that Scholastic has a binding contractual relationship with a lot of public schools. You know what I mean? Like, a lot. So indirectly or directly, be it through the libraries, be it through the various, because we covered the other day, I can't remember what that little program was where you had this program that was working with a bunch of libraries in this geographical area. There's a bunch of states that were involved. That I think it was Marvel. I don't think it was DC. I think it was Marvel. That Marvel was funneling, providing shit for. Obviously, they were paying for it, right? So I'm trying to figure out, because I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard thing to nail down. Like, is this how significant of it is it? Let's say that. We know that these are now tied to mega corporations. So we know that most of Marvel's return is going to come from merchandise. It's going to come from, the movies. That's where a lot of it's going to come from. But I'm intrigued by how much of it comes from taxpayers I want to know the percentage of the taxpayer money that goes to subsidize Marvel's print line. That I want to know. Like, regarding the publications, regarding the books, I want to know how much of that and how significant of a percentage is that. It might not be that high, but I could see a place where it's pretty significant, because we know that, you ask any local comic book shop owner, it ain't like they exactly killing it right now anyway. Manga kicks their ass up and down right now in the West right now. So how much is going to it? I don't know. It's such a hard thing to nail down, because, again, you have that direct way of doing it. Maybe libraries are have a budget, and maybe they're purchasing those books from Marvel that they are having on their shelves in their libraries. But also with these various deals of, like, more indirectly, the Scholastics and all of those, how much are those contractual obligations basically tied into state funds, which means they stole from y'all to pay for it, and it then gets in the hand of Marvel, and it helps their bottom line. They wouldn't certainly be the only. How unrealistic would it be? Because they certainly wouldn't be the only mega corporation that has something like that baked in, where they get taxpayer money some kind of way anyway. That's not unreasonable to think that, because we've seen examples of it. I've covered some examples of it in more of a sense anyway. So it's not like it's up for dispute. But if you understand mega corporations, I mean, shit, they love to be in bed with the government. So if anybody has a lead on this, some sort of data, I would love to compile it, and I would love to do a long form video of it, research wise, to just get that information out there, no matter how significant it is, because maybe it's not as significant as what I think. But it's to some degree that they're getting taxpayer funds. How much of it, I guess, is the question. Well, I guess we'll find out if we put our heads together. But I think this is something that the reason why I want to do a segment on it, because I don't think it's being talked about enough. Like we accept some things as truth, and we accept some things as is, but it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, you consider how much books Marvel puts out on a week-to-week basis, and yeah, they are tied to mega corporations that can subsidize their work, but they're in the red. They're in the red, like as a department, for sure they're in the red. So how are they making that money up? Some way. How? I don't know. And that's what my question is. How significant? Because for you guys that aren't in the publication industry, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors involved in that shit. A lot of governments, a lot of these fake academics that write these fucking books, really they're only known, and they make a lot of money off of state funds because the state then pays them for the books, right? They'll put them in their libraries and other various things. You see those, and really it doesn't have a true demand for it. But, there's contracts. Hey, this publication, publishing house has a contract with this government, and they'll provide books from art. Like, it's a lot of that going on. A lot of smoke and mirrors in the book industry anyway, like outside of comics. But comics, just because that's what we talk about a lot, I would love to know where that is. Where's the money coming from, and how much of it, more so in terms of percentage wise, is it made up of, in some way, taxpayer dollars through way of direct purchases or some sort of contract between some middleman or some shit like that? I would love to know that. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.